I'm playing something almost every week, and sometimes I want to talk about it. It's time for a quick hit review. Or a vertical slice, if you will. So stick with me for some lightning reviews. This week, on the chopping block.
This week I've been playing Hot Wheels Unleashed. Geez, now that I think about it, I have been playing a lot of arcade racers lately, haven't I? Whatever, that just means I can forego my usual format of explaining why I like the genre overall. Yes, it's another arcade racing game, but this one is unique in that it actually managed to garner some interest from me before it actually released. You see, I make it a priority not to fall into the trap of video game hype mongering. I find that it's much more useful in life to be a cynic. Don't get me wrong, there are franchises that I love, thoroughly enjoy, and eagerly anticipate new entries of... Alright, scratch that last part. Long story short, a game has to do a lot of stuff right in its marketing phase in order to even have me raise an eyebrow. Hot Wheels Unleashed checked a good portion of those boxes. In preview and pre-release marketing events, they showed off gameplay. The mechanics were solidly displayed, there was enough detail in what was shown to make me think the developers were actually treating this with respect, and the publisher was seemingly giving enough time to turn out something with quality. Lo and behold, all those expectations have actually been communicated through the released title. For the most part anyways, but I'll get into that later. Hot Wheels Unleashed is a mechanically deep, easy-to-learn, fun-to-master racing title with a wealth of detail that shows love and passion for the source material. In this case, die-cast metal model cars that are best known as having a co-starring role as a minor combatant in Home Alone. And speaking of Home Alone and the fear of damage that unattended children can cause, it's worth noting I don't have kids. But if I did, I'd imagine this would be an excellent title for them to have fun with as well. The wide variety of colorful cars and variable difficulty levels are likely to ensure fun at all ages. Although for some minor nitpicks, I don't appreciate how some cars have adopted the rubber banding tendency of ignoring their in-game stats just for the sake of griefing you, and cutting out in front of you on a turn that they should have no rights being able to navigate. But nevertheless, it is amusing to see the wide variety of cars on display, from the pop culturally iconic to the speed demon machines that will undoubtedly dominate multiplayer matches, to the trash stat comedy vehicles themed around dinosaurs and food items. I'd imagine that the scenarios in this game are likely what flashed through the mind of a 6-year-old Gheeotine as he set up tracks and raced his cars around his parents' basement. And that transitions nicely to the environments because there are a few worth noting, such as a basement, a skate park, a garage, and a couple others. It makes for interesting and varied track layouts with courses weaving through air ducts and around equipment or furniture. And if the courses don't seem interesting enough, you can create your own. Having given the course editor a quick try, I can tell that it's fairly in-depth and not something you can just immediately dive into. But that being said, I can imagine that with a little effort, the community is going to create some amazing tracks, and I may even dive into it if I can get familiar enough with the track editors and maintain some passion. And speaking of passion, it's clearly shown through the details that the developers held the Hot Wheels license with reverence, as every single car is intricately crafted with the smallest touches in the molded plastic and model numbers even being depicted on the underside of your cars as they would be if you were holding the toy in your hand. I even noticed that on some of the time trials that I spent a little bit more effort on to shave seconds, it led to the model garnering wear and tear as any owner of a Hot Wheels toy that they played with extensively would be familiar with. All these little additions don't really impact gameplay, but the fact that they are included shows they had enough time to craft a solid experience with lots to appreciate. And speaking of things that I appreciate, let's go to something I mentioned in my last racing game review. Maintaining the trend, there isn't really a story mode. The campaign is literally racing challenges set up on a map navigation menu. Mechanically speaking, absolutely unnecessary, but given the childlike nature of the IP, it doesn't seem like it would be a terrible stretch to set up something with the impetus being a kid's imagination to fuel an actual story in the levels. Remember, I'm a hopeless mutant who appreciates story whenever it's included and well done. One thing I don't appreciate, however, is the abundance of stability issues that I encountered. To explain my specific setup, I was playing the PlayStation 4 version on a PlayStation 5. It made more sense to me because many titles are featuring free, if not relatively inexpensive, upgrades from one system to another, and a title that can be played on two systems as opposed to one seems like a clear upside. It's just unfortunate that when the game got hectic, I had about a 1 in 4 chance of having the game crash on me. And on boss levels, that ratio might as well have gone up to a 50% chance that the game was going to crash at some point throughout the race. It becomes particularly infuriating when I'm working on a course that I've had to try a couple times and I'm finally having a good run, only to initiate a drift or a turbo boost and suddenly the game locks up and I'm met with an error screen. I'm 100% serious when I say that I have lost count of the number of times that I had to send this error report. If anyone who has played this on one of the other systems has had a similar experience on the systems they were specifically made for, please let me know. I'm sure this can be patched or updated, but if I base my purchase decisions around things like backwards compatibility and then it shows to be unstable, it's something that deserves to be called out. For the love of God, Milestone, patch this. And to conclude, speaking of things that deserve to be called out, I am incredibly worried for this game on one element. It is so preemptively set up for microtransactions with a loot box style reward system that it scares me. At the time of writing, the game allows for you to unlock cars via specific purchases or loot boxes using in-game currency that can only be attained by playing the game. But as I said, it's so preemptively set up to have paid for microtransactions for this loot box system that it could theoretically be as simple as modifying a piece of code from allow_microtransactions_ and switching the status from 1 to a 0. This game is also already set up with multiple season passes for additional content, which I do not appreciate, but it's kind of hard to escape in this day and age. Not that I think it's excusable. On the other hand, the game isn't toting the usual new price point of $70 or even $60. For a new release to come in at $50, it does raise an eyebrow, but I suppose they're using that as an excuse to include multiple season passes. That. Let me be clear on one thing though. If this game, literally oriented with an intellectual property towards children, switches this game to allow a gambling mechanic tied to paid microtransactions, I am going to crucify this game in an update video, and any recommendation I give here will be 100% retracted.
This is the sonorous war cry of a very angry frog.
I remain hopeful because the developer and publisher, Milestone, did not seem to be frequently using that business model with the brief research I conducted. Now, on these quicker reviews, I basically established that I don't give number scores, but a level of recommendation, and at this time, I kind of do recommend this one. The stability issues are unfortunate, but as I said, likely to be patched, and the rest of the experience is solid and drips with style and passion that can be appreciated by anyone that's ever played with the 1/64th scale toys that they're based on. Just beware the potential for future monetization changes.